All right, Sam, the paperwork is coming in. The signees are in the fold. Michigan, these guys are officially Michigan football players. Let's focus on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of skill set coming into Ann Arbor this coming season. A lot of guys with speed. I know we use the term speed in space, but you really see it when you see guys running 4.37 40s, 10.2 100s. I mean, you're seeing some guys that can really fit that mold and to compete with the upper echelon of college football out there right now.
Yeah, I think there was a very clear initiative when Josh Gaddis came in to get guys who can take a 3-yard pass and go the distance. They have some bigger, more box you out type of receivers, really, really long playmakers, but can you consistently be a threat to go 80? There isn't a lot of that on the roster. They added some of that in the form of guys like Giles Jackson and St. Ristel, but you take it to an even higher level with this class. When you consider AJ Henning, the highest rated player in this class, is a legit 4.4 laser 4.4 guy, 10 meter guy, and we watched him. I mean, this is a kid who lined up at Wildcat quarterback, tailback, receiver. He can cut. I say he can cut butter. That's it's that
legit.
It's that the guy who can make a move in a phone booth and leave you in the dust. There is not a lot of that. It's not in great supply for Michigan, but it is in this class, and I think he is the table setter as far as that's concerned. You think about when Josh Gaddis comes on the scene, everyone was saying that AJ Henning is going to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame was the overwhelming favorite at that point. But a very strong connection. I think the emphasis, and I think showing him the vision for the offense. He's not going to be relegated to just one spot. Everything you saw AJ Henning do for his high school team, state champion, everything you saw him do there, I think you're going to see him do in Ann Arbor. You're going to see him do Wildcat stuff. You're going to see him in the slot. You're going to see him split out. You're going to see him taking reverses. You're going to see all of those things from a guy who is a big play threat every time he touches the football.
Roman Wilson's another guy. As I adjust the camera here,
Yeah.
Roman Wilson continues talking, but Roman Wilson's another guy. He sort of hit the scene I believe it was at the Oakland opening. Really hit the blazing speed, 4.37 as I mentioned, and really just came on the radar. And then a bunch of teams wanted him, and then he sort of ended his sort of recruitment sort of really quick.
Yeah, so it's important to note that first with Roman, his family is from the state of Michigan.
Right.
Mom and dad are Michiganders, and dad is a huge Michigan fan. Now, I don't think that led him to Michigan, but it planted a seed. And so Roman Wilson went to a Michigan satellite camp. You talk about the influence of the satellite camp tour when Michigan used to do that. They did a satellite camp, out west back in Hawaii some years ago.
Wow.
Roman Wilson was an 8th grader and was the fastest man at that camp at that time as an 8th grader. So kept some tabs, some contact, showed some interest, but this is another Gaddis special coming in and kind of showing the vision for what this offense is going to be. This guy is another 10-600 meter guy, but I'm sure Roman would say, like he told me, look, I ran my 10-6 on a wet surface. It was in the rain. What can I do? What will I do when I'm running on a dry surface in ideal conditions? He said, I think I'm going to run a 10-2 this year. That 10-6 was last year state champion in Hawaii. He feels like at least 10-3, maybe 10-2. Point is, that's that ooh-wee speed that you give him the ball in space, and he can blow by you in the blink of an eye. Again, speed and space is a cliche, but it's fitting. You added another guy who is a threat every time he touches the ball to go the distance. And so I think you're going to see some of the plays that we saw them run this year be exploited more when you get guys like this the ball in their hands.
I heard a little bit of your tidbits this morning. A guy that I got to see at the opening that you mentioned, a running back, Blake Corum. Saw him in person. The guy's elusive. Rated the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Maryland. Plays for a powerhouse. He's a winner.
Yeah,
and he's going to bring that sort of that transitional back, and he could see some playing time next year as a Wolverine.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because what you saw happen with Michigan's backfield this year is, look, make no mistake, Hassan Haskins was the difference in the running game.
Absolutely.
You saw him get on the football field and rarely was it the case that the first man would bring him down. He could sidestep you. He could run through you.
Right.
I mean, just showed you great vision. Showed you the things that his coach said when we covered his recruitment. His coach said, Le'Veon Bell. I know some people kind of snarled at that, say, yeah, right. Well, Le'Veon Bell, remember, Le'Veon Bell was on his way to Eastern Michigan. And Eastern Michigan turned Le'Veon Bell down. Man, I'm telling you, I'm sure as the day is long, Tyrone Wheatley had a commitment from Le'Veon. And Ron English said, no, we can't take that guy. We're going to take another guy. That's the Le'Veon Bell story. And then he was left open for Michigan State to swoop in at the very end and said, we'll give you a shot at tailback. The rest is history. His body changed. So the Hassan Haskins point is not misplaced. I think that there are there are some striking similarities there when you talk about their size. At that stage, Le'Veon was probably a bit heavier, but their feet at that size. My point in raising it, not a breakaway threat. Not a guy that's going to go the distance. He's not going to go 80.
Well, and that's what Blake can do.
And neither is Zach Charbonnet.
Right.
Neither is Chris Evans. So you bring Blake Corum into the equation, a guy who will run it up the middle, but if he gets a crease, if he bounces off a tackle, he can go 80. And this is a guy, I'm sure Michigan fans can appreciate this. This is the guy Ohio State wanted. Look, Ohio State came on Blake Corum hard after he went to that opening and ran that 4.40, that 33-inch vertical. Yeah, Ohio State, we got to have that dude. He chose Michigan over Ohio State, Michigan over LSU. This is a guy that can be one of those, whether you're talking about speed and space and throwing it to him out of the backfield, but handing it to him out of the backfield, he is a threat to go the distance when you hand him the football. There's a guy that I don't want to skip over, though. A guy that is my pick for the sleeper of this class, okay. Eamon Dennis.
Okay.
Pop on Eamon Dennis's film. I think a lot of people will find in him some similarities to Mike Sainristil. That's who Brian Doan, who is based in the East and kind of covers that area. I mean, right. we talked to Brian Doan more than anyone this past year because half of Michigan's class came from the East. So he thought of Mike Sainristil. I think this kid is more explosive than Mike Sainristil. About the same size, maybe a hair taller, but check his film. Okay. Check his tape. He is another guy, you give him a crease, he can go a long way. Laser time 4.5, but what really was striking to me, 40-inch vertical, verified. This is not him saying I can jump 40 inches. This is tested at a Nike opening regional. So he hasn't been in a serious strength and conditioning program yet. He's jumping 40 inches before he gets into a plyo program, before he gets into serious squats and explosive movements. He hasn't done any of that yet, and you're still seeing that kind of explosion. And he hasn't been in an environment where he has been sharpened by other really great players because he's playing in Massachusetts. That is a guy that I think has a chance to be another really dynamic playmaker for Michigan.
And now, lastly, is there any one last nugget you want to get into?
Yeah.
Is there one guy that you're like, besides, you mentioned your sleeper, is there another guy that was sort of a late riser, so to speak?
So, I think is, as we get caught up, and rightfully, understandably so, get caught up in the rankings, you kind of miss the fit. And that's why I'm bringing up a guy like Eamon Dennis, who's a 3-star, but you look at the circumstances, a guy from Massachusetts, people don't recruit. They don't recruit.
You know what, Ronnie Bell would probably be given a different grade about him, don't you think? So
they don't recruit Massachusetts, and then how he fits in this offense, Eamon Dennis, I think has a chance to be a really, really significant player. But they found Matthew Hibner.
Okay.
Found Matthew Hibner. Now, Matt Hibner's story is interesting because it is an example of what scouting does and what allowing a guy time to develop, what that does as well. Because Matt Hibner, when the spring rolled around, he had Yale and Howard chasing him. Those
Not exactly your powerhouse.
Those were the schools chasing him. A month and a half later, he had a bunch of Power Fives, Virginia Tech, Michigan, all over him. So why? Well, you go back to his junior year, and Matt Hibner was a 6'3", like 185-pound, maybe 6'3", 185-pound tight end receiver. By the time you get into late spring, late May, or late April, early May, the kid is 6'4", 235 pounds. I mean, the dude is added over. He's
developing.
He's added 40 to 50 pounds.
Right.
In about in about 5-6 months.
Right.
It's just an amazing growth that you saw in him. And then what I think put the Power Fives over the top was that he didn't lose any foot speed, no quickness. So when they watched him running around, it's like, oh man, this dude is a revelation. So I think Virginia Tech was like, oh, we found one, we stole one. His sister goes to Virginia Tech. I think they thought they were going to get a commitment from him before he could hit the market.
Right.
Didn't happen. He goes on a visit to Michigan. It's like, oh man, he didn't even go on any other visits after that. He committed to Michigan. This is a guy, he compares himself to George Kittle. And I can see that. I mean, George Kittle is a guy, if you watch him play, is a dynamic pass catching tight end. You know, I think he's better than the Lions tight end that they got out of Iowa. They got him in the 5th round, but I digress.
Yeah.
Point is, I can see why, when you ask Matt Hibner about his game, why he says George Kittle. Because he brings you that size at 6'4" and some change. He can run. He can really run. He is another playmaking threat in this offense, but from the tight end position. And that's when I look at this class, that's what I see offensively. I see playmakers, guys that are capable of making big plays. And that's one of the things. You watch some of the plays Michigan had this year, plays that might have gone 40, 30 or 40 yards. You got guys in this class that can take that same play and go 70 or 80 with it.
Well, hey, that's big news. I'm sure Michigan fans are excited about the playmakers, the possibility, and I have to agree with you. So look for all our coverage and more. We're going to get to the defensive side of the ball coming up next.